see, where are we at? We got stuff going live. Let me see here. Oh, I think we're live. Woo! Okay. All right. Hi, this is Catherine Toon, and I am kind of coming to you today with a posted on my personal timeline just some feedback about a movie that's on Netflix right now, and it's controversial. It's called Cuties. I'll just tell you what it is because that's annoying when people are, I'm not going to tell you. And oh man, it produced a hailstorm of response and a lot of surprising response, right? I am not a big climb on the controversy bandwagon person. And I am not a big, let's ban things, let's, hi there, Renata, not big on that. But this movie that I actually, before I got too knee-jerky about it, because, you can, like, that's a hot button for me, right? So I actually watched the movie until I honestly couldn't stand it anymore. I have to say, so full disclosure, I just couldn't get through the movie. And then I kind of did some research about how it came from, how it was originally touted, how it's touted now, and all of that. And after doing all that, I came to the conclusion, this is not okay. And so and that was my conclusion. I want you to come to your own conclusion, okay? I want you to investigate it. But I did contact Netflix that it's on, and I'd asked them to take it down. And I got a very standard response. The movie, let me explain, is about 11-year-olds, and because of the pressures of social media and the peer pressure and all of that, the lead protagonist character, who comes from a conservative Muslim home, and this is set in Paris, I believe. So this is actually it's not American culture. She ends up joining this dance troupe, and it's touted. I'll say what Netflix says about it. It says, 11-year-old Amy starts to rebel against her conservative family's traditions when she becomes fascinated with a free-spirited dance crew. Well, hi, Randolyn. And, this was kind of after Netflix got really panned for having this really pornographic imagery on like the art that they actually apologized for. But literally it shows these little 11-year-old girls, in sex positions, and I'm just not happy. Okay. And so I was like, this is in the not okay category. So I told, Netflix, I asked them to take it down. And I told them that honestly, this was such a deal breaker for me that I wasn't sure. Hi there. That I wasn't sure that I, could continue my membership with Netflix, just because sometimes it's just a deal breaker, right? I'm not a big, ban it, picket it, that kind of thing. And there's really good stuff on Netflix. And I also know there's trash on. I just know it's there. My problem is when it's children that are sexualized, right? Thank you, Norris. I hope, just pray for me that I do it well, right? But, truly, I was really repulsed by this film. And I understand their take on it. And what I've heard from the people that were able to make it through the film was that it is, it's actually decrying this as a problem. Hi there, Raymond. And as a matter of fact, their position, and this is what I got from Netflix, which was annoying. Cuties is a social commentary about the sexualization of young children. It's an award-winning film, which it is. It came out with Sundance, won the Sundance Award a year ago. about the pressure young girls face on social media and from society more generally growing up. And we'd encourage anyone who cares about these important issues to watch the movie. Okay. So, the response I got from Netflix is watch it. I said I did. That's why I'm calling you. Because I didn't want to be one of those people getting so reactive, right? And really not checking it out. And that's kind of what the stance is. And if you read some stuff on kind of what the director was, that's kind of her stance. She sees this as a problem. This is my commentary on the problem. Well, I have a problem with that because a year prior, when it came out with Sundance, it was touted as a freedom, as self-expression. It was just lauded as young girls coming into their own identity and sexual freedom and discovering their femininity as a coming-of-age film. It was not lauded as a commentary on the sexualization of young girls. My other problem is if you do watch it, and buyer beware, that the camera reveals the problem. If I'm going to find out about rape as a problem, I don't want to see someone being raped. But you get over and over and over, you got little girls in skimpy outfits. These are 11-year-old girls simulating masturbation, performing sexual motions over and over and over. There's an exposed breast. That's the only nudity they have. And my problem, and then the camera just panning into things. And so my problem with it is that if this is a commentary on that, you actually make it titillating for the problem that you say is a problem. And that understands someone had to direct these 11-year-old girls to do this. So anyway, I pointed all this out. And there are people like, well, I'm canceling Netflix. And I understand, we get that way, right? Let's cancel Netflix. And I'm not here to tell you to cancel your Netflix. You just do as you feel led. I did post feedback from Netflix. I think it's a good idea. Because I do feel like people need to be held accountable. Hi, Jamie. It was interesting as it all came out. I was kind of shocked to see there were multiple people who felt that this was a really good film. And these are people like I actually really respect. And so I'm like, what's going on? And then there are other people, especially women, who were like horrified. Okay, horrified. And so I think what's happening with this is that we're having two very different conversations. And so when I'm talking about this because my heart issue is this, and you're talking about this because your heart issue is this, we are not meeting. And I think part of this, so let me tell you what the two different perspectives are that I think are coming to the table with this. So I think the women in general are coming at this issue from a very guttural reaction because children's innocence is being violated. And probably because, as so often is the case, so many of women have been violated somehow sexually. Their innocence has been violated. So many men have been too. So let's be very clear. But I feel like, and since the women generally, they're the child bearers, they're the ones that are looking for the safety and protection of their kids, and all of that. And so, and I'm not saying the guys aren't, I'm saying just general gestalt places. And so, what happens is that that's where there's coming from. And many women are suffering from such pain, even if you've just been objectified. This is a thing. And guys, if you don't see it, that's okay. We love you. It's a thing. It's kind of like saying racism is not a thing. It's not everywhere all the time, but it's a thing. So this is a thing. Okay. And So when you come at it from that, there's a hemorrhage, there's a bleeding going on. And when you are bleeding and maybe someone else comes from it from the perspective, this was a good film because, and they have really rational things, it feels like, honestly, like an assault. It really does. Now it's interesting because the guys that came at this are really amazing guys. That a lot of them, and I feel like what their perspective was, yes, this is a problem, but I object to a knee-jerking reaction, ill-informed religiosity, where we just knee-jerk. We in the church, in our religious whatevers, we link arms and we start banning and picketing, and we kind of can look ridiculous sometimes because we get all fear-based, okay? And so their guttural reaction, having detox from religion and that kind of thing, is that, you know what, we just can't do this. Ban Netflix and whatever. And I'm not. You didn't see me put ban Netflix on this because I feel like you just need to do whatever you feel led, because it's really not a not Netflix thing. Because even if everything changed, this is still a problem, right? Child exploitation, women exploitation. And so, they're saying that this will not solve the problem and we can't bow to religious hysteria. I agree. And I feel like with that, so if you're a woman that's coming from this perspective, I want my kids safe. And I want to be safe because I don't feel safe. I feel objectified and all that kind of stuff. And it is, let me tell you, it can be really horrific. And it's so there. So many of us have been so desensitized, we don't even see it anymore. And I think that's what part of the problem is. And which is why I spoke out, because I feel like, at some point we have to say, this is kids. Don't mess with the kids. It's bad enough you're messing with the women. It's bad enough you're messing with the men. Don't mess with the kids, right? So that's why I was like, you don't see me coming out with it. You don't, but I am for this. And I think generally women are looking for men. Can I help you guys? Because, we're in this together, aren't we? Okay. They're looking for men in general to stand up and defend and protect them and their kids. Protect their sister, as a sister, as a wife, as a daughter, right? As a mother. Stand up, protect us, right? You're right, Balin. God really is exposing things, right? Remember, I keep on saying, this is upgrade time, and upgrade time, it's hard. We got it all coming all at once. That means big upgrades. So let me just remind you, the happy part, okay? And so stand up, protect me, defend me. And the problem is, so many of the guys are trapped in the very industry, driving the very industry that is undermining the kids and women. And, and they're not, let me say this, because I hear this all the time. Porn is a huge issue for guys in the church. It is. And this is not a condemnation. Please hear me, guys, and women. Okay. Not a condemnation, but it is a thing. And so if you feel that men are objectifying someone in the privacy of their own thing, you don't feel safe as a woman. Just like if you feel that, someone is racist in the privacy of their own world, right? Well, if you're the race that you feel is being racist against, you don't feel safe. This is an issue. The heart matters, okay? And I'm not condemning anybody. So I just want everybody to take a breath, okay? But we're trying, what are we doing? We're clarifying issues so we can have discussion, right? And so, when women feel that, they feel like, I can't trust you to protect me and defend me, okay? That is heartbreaking, by the way. And that's what the ladies are looking at. I'm not here. I really honestly don't really give a rat's behind about critiquing the film. This is just a springboard for discussion. And I still have to disagree with all of those that say it's a commentary. Well, if it's commentary, it does a crappy job of commenting. I'm telling you, you don't comment by violating the very thing you're commenting against violating. That's just my thing. So, you know, how do we have this discussion? Because, you know, this is not, we don't want to get a furious religious uproar and, you know, women burn our bras and the church bands together and looks ridiculous and accuses Netflix of being Satan and the Antichrist, and, you know, just weird. We can get weird. Please help us, please help us, Jesus. We just need help. But this is a thing. And I'm bringing it up because of this. It's been a thing forever. So it's not a new thing. It is ramping up, and child trafficking and children being exploited and women being trafficked and women being exploited, and the guys too, but it's less of a thing, you know, with the guys. So it's particularly assaults women and children. It just does. And so I just thought I'd bring out some stats because, you know, probably a good idea. So, porn industry, and I would classify this as porn. If it titillates, I don't care if people are covered, it's porn, okay, by definition. So it's a 64% of young people ages 13 to 24 actively seek out porn weekly or more often. Teenage girls are likely to actively seek out porn more than women above 25, not a surprise. A study of 14 to 19-year-olds found that females who consume pornographic videos were at a significantly greater likelihood of being victims of sexual harassment or sexual assault. All I can say is dang da dang dang dang. Okay. Let's see. A Swedish study of 18-year-old males found that frequent consumers of porn were significantly more likely to have sold or bought sex than other boys of the same age. So porn is not innocuous. A meta-analysis of 22 studies from 7 countries found that internationally the consumption of porn was significantly associated with increases in verbal and physical aggression among males and females alike. Yeah, so a UK survey, this is kind of a no-brainer, said that 11 to 8 males aged 11 to 16, that's a heartbreaker, 11 to 16. Okay, I could just cry over that. Who consume porn reported that online pornography gave them ideas about what type of sex they wanted to try. You know what? When you have a perverted industry driving what sexuality looks like, we have a problem, right? Porn sites receive more regular traffic than Netflix, Amazon, Twitter combined each month. 35% of all internet downloads are estimated to be porn related. 34% of internet users have been exposed to unwanted, well, this is true, porn, only 35% porn, video ads, pop-ups, etc. The teen porn category has topped porn site searches for the last 7 or more years. Okay, so this is targeting our teens. At least 30% of all data transferred across the internet is estimated to be porn related, 30%. The most common female role in porn titles is that of women in their 20s portraying teenagers being targeted. Recorded sexual exploitation, known as child porn, is one of the fastest growing online businesses. 624,000 plus child porn traders have been discovered online in the US. Between 2005 and 2009, child porn was hosted on servers located on all 50 states. Porn is global, estimated to be a $97 billion industry, with about $12 billion of that coming from the US. We are leading the way. I was kidding. I'll skip that one because I don't understand it. Sorry. 11 pornography sites are among the world's top 300 most popular internet sites. Skip that. The world's largest free porn site also received over 42, I have to figure this out, billion site visits during 2019 alone. You know, we have a problem. You know, we just have a problem. And our children are caught in the fray. See, this is when I'm just like, right, okay, I have a problem, okay, with anybody, male, female. I'm not sure who I am. I'm not trying to make a joke about that. With all being in, but you touch our kids, okay, it's too much. I'm just like, no. So, you know, I'm just wanting to bring up awareness, but I want to make sure that we have a good discussion. A good discussion. And I think so many people, because we have been so desensitized, because I mean, how's bells? We get like porn when you're trying to buy milk. You know what I mean? You just can't, it's like, it's so ridiculous. And I feel so badly for the guys. And I, you know, I minister to a lot of guys who are struggling so hard in the porn department. And these are good men, young men who are really struggling. It's really unfair because the guys are wired visually. That's just what it is. And when that's hijacked, it's just really hard. You get trapped. And at the same time, I'm ministering to women who are hemorrhaging out because they're just trying to protect the innocence of their kids. And they're just hemorrhaging out because they're just not considered people. You know, the problem with the extremes of how women are treated, and I'm going to talk about women for a second. And remember this in the context of this movie with 11-year-old girls. So the way women are treated is that the sex thing, you either come from maybe a religious standpoint where sex is dirty, and so there's that shame, and so you struggle with that. And if you actually like sex, you're like bad, okay? And then, whereas if you like sex as a guy, that's normal, okay? Or you go on the other extreme where sexuality is self-expression, is freedom. So it becomes a commodity and you're objectified, and it's all about TNA. I mean, I'm not going to say it. Sorry about that, guys. I'm sure I offended somebody, but that's okay. We're going to get through this, okay? Right? It's all about like what you can show. And so your value is how you can commodity yourself. And so either way, as a woman, you lose. And that's really true. And this is, I'm going to give credit to Keith Giles for bringing out this dynamic. And he wrote a blog, which I will be sharing on this. And it's talking about basically banning Netflix is not going to solve the problem. And he's right. But let's have the discussion. I thought, yeah, let's have the discussion. Let's do it. So I'm doing it and all that kind of thing. So this is the trap for women. And when your value is in your sexuality or your beauty, and they get to be really twisted and messed up because it's beautiful, but it's sexual, and sexual should be good and beautiful, but it becomes something yucky. And then I'm not a person and I'm being used and looked at like a thing and all this kind of stuff. And then add to that, if you've had any trauma in the past, right? Hi, Derek. If you've had any trauma in the past, and it becomes a big thing. And so how do we react? And I say react because I'm just saying, you know, let's talk. Let's be rational even while passions are running high. Because we have the two dynamics of, I want to keep my kids safe. I want to feel safe. And maybe I'm having issues in my marriage. Maybe porn is such a huge thing, right? I mean, it's such a huge thing. I mean, everybody loses except for the ones raking in the dough. And as I said, I don't know, how much was it? 70 something billion something. Anyway, a lot. I saw one quote, which was kind of interesting, that it was like, conservatively, it's an $8 billion business in this country, kind of like what bottled water is. So we're kind of consuming porn the way we are consuming bottled water-ish. So it's a thing. I'm sorry, Laura. I'm so sorry. And absolutely. And there's a way to overcome that trauma with a new mindset, but we've got to have the discussion. And as the church, the followers of Christ, whatever you call yourself, because I know people get triggered when you use some of these words. Let's not get all cray-cray. Okay. Netflix is not the Antichrist, but I think it's good to give them feedback, because it's not okay with me to have 8-year-olds, sexualized while you're so-called protesting sexualization. I didn't say 8-year-olds. Sorry, there's one. 11-year-olds sexualized while you're so-called protesting sexualizing children. Okay, I have a problem if that's really what's going on. The ends does not justify the means. So anyway, heartbreak. But let's have a discussion and not be crazies. Yes, Derek, Keith's blog rocks, and I am posting it. I don't know if you saw that. It totally rocks. I so appreciate that. I did want to say, though, it's really important as we're having these discussions that we come at it with an understanding what we're talking about. Because as I said, we are having two different conversations. If you look at like all the things, and you don't have to go to my Facebook post, it's not like it's the end all be all, but what it was very, very revealing, very revealing. And as I said, the only people who thought this movie was great were guys. And I think that's actually very telling. And I'm not condemning anybody, because you probably are able to actually sit through it and not be triggered into a fetal position if you've had trauma in the past. I was not able to sit through it. I was able to get through a good portion. I just couldn't take it anymore. And this is just me. But I do feel the women are feeling the vulnerability of it, the violation of it. And if you've been violated as a little girl, it's going to be problematic for you. If you are if you have children and you are just trying to protect those little babies' innocence, okay, that's a big deal. And I feel like that's where the ladies are coming from. It's a heart issue. And if you felt violated as a woman sexually in any way, this is going to be where you're coming from. So it's going to be a different kind of hemorrhage. So when we're having a discussion, that's where a lot of the ladies are coming from. And as I said, I think a lot of the guys are coming from, let's not get all religious crazy, right, in our response. And let's have a conversation. So let's talk about it. So in the place where you have these two different issues that are being raised with women, either women and then of course children, of course, and in this movie, this was like child. I feel like, I'm really hoping, hi Carlos, I'm really hoping that everybody's in agreement with the not sexualizing our kids. I think that's now let me tell you where I came from, because I came from a very liberal background. You just check it off. Like, what you're seeing now is like, oh yeah, I've smelled this before. Okay, so whatever. But I'm not throwing stuff at. I'm just not making this a political thing. But I'm saying very liberal in the place of sexuality as well. And it was all in the sexual freedom type of stuff. Everything was sexualized. I literally had a family member say to me, "Everything's sex," and I'm this little girl, and I'm like, number one, incest was an issue. So this thing. And so everything was it. So everything was sexual, and you just couldn't like be a person. Okay. And so for me, in that thing where, but it was, sex was kind of celebrated. So it was kind of on the end of, this is expression, it's freedom, it's empowerment, and it's complete bullshit. I just have to say, can I just say it? Because of course you're a sexual person, and that is awesome, but it was never meant to be displayed. It was never meant to be used. It was never meant to be lusted after. It was never meant to be sucked out of your soul. Okay. It was meant to be expressed, and I will say it, in marriage, because why? When you're in a covenant, you're actually safe. You actually have some sort of commitment. I'm saying marriage, we all know marriages have issues. Okay. But when there's that layer, that becomes something that is protected and safe between just two people. You know, problematic, you know, in my family of origin, it wasn't kept between two people. And so this is an issue. So when it's connected between two people that are in covenant together, and is also not a public thing, this is an intimate thing. And so that is meant to be expressed for one person and one person only. And then that can be amazing. Yeah, it can be amazing. But when it's taken out of that context, that's when it becomes perverted. That's when it becomes harmful. Okay. And that's when it becomes toxic, particularly when it's being touted as freedom and self-expression and, you know, whatever, and public. I'm like, what the hell? Right? Okay. Because it was never designed to be that. And so what happens is the human soul corrodes. The human soul dies. Those little girls, their little souls, like, you have to be dead inside to do that for the camera. Okay. So that's on one end. And the other end, you have the, you know, religious, like you can't enjoy sex, you're bad if you enjoy sex. Well, that's not what God says. You know what I mean? So it was made to be pleasurable because God made it to be pleasurable. It's a good thing and a powerful thing. And that's why so many of the things that are so powerful, right, have been, you know, distorted and perverted. And I'm sorry if that is, I mean, that is a thing for everybody. So in our discussion, moving forward, you know, we have the children issue, and I just hope we can agree. Children were meant to be, their sexuality is meant to be dormant until they're ready for it. And I would just propose to you that 11-year-olds are not ready for sex. They're just not. Now, you know, let me say this. Babies have sexual responses, okay? We're sexual beings, okay? So that's just how we're wired, okay? But it doesn't mean it's supposed to be preyed upon and exposed and hyper-stimulated before there's an emotional capacity and a relational capacity to handle it in a healthy way. We're talking about wholeness. We're talking about wholeness. We're talking about the two becoming one flesh. And that is a husband-wife thing. I'm sorry if it's not popular, but I don't really give a rat's behind. Okay? It's just because that's where it can be handled and be healthy and be amazing. And it's designed to be amazing between that and that. Okay? And so when people's sexuality is hijacked, and that's what I call it, and oh my God, do I minister to people with this hijacked sexuality when it's been hijacked. Okay. And let me say this, porn will hijack your sexuality. If people think that porn, there are no like losers in porn because I'm not actually raping her. Okay. Right. You're on crack. And I will say this to the guys and to the ladies, because it's not just a guy problem, but it's a lot of guy problem. Okay. what you do in your own space matters. It matters because that's not a victimless crime, because it's literally driving the sex trade industry. It's literally driving children being abducted, raped, sold, prostituted. It is driving that, even if you're not looking at child porn. I'm just saying it right out there. Now, that's not a guilt statement. That's just a little bit of, hello, we need to be responsible. So if porn is an issue for you, by all means, get help. You are loved, no condemnation, but you need to be very clear on what it is doing. And it's also violating, your marriage vows if you're married. It's violating your ability to have a healthy sexual relationship if you're not married, and I don't have all the answers, but I'm saying it's a thing. So let the Lord help you with this. Let him heal you, right? Because, the thing with porn is that it creates a false sense of intimacy. And you know what? We are so separated right now, and people are hurting. It creates comfort, and it creates a false sense of intimacy. And those usually are the drivers, and it's understandable. So often it's used to help de-stress when you're stressed out, when you need comfort, when you're lonely, when you're bored. I mean, it is, it's calorie free. And so, so it makes it a really tough thing. So if you're struggling with this as a guy or as a woman, my heart goes out to you. It really does. But I will say this, struggle with it. Because there's something, yay, Ken, hi, good to see you, right? So just as, I totally lost my, and it was brilliant. It was so good. Jesus help me. Let me just pull back a second. And so the drivers for the porn, they're valid needs, but it's being expressed in a way that it literally is hurting people. And the thought that there's no one getting hurt on the other end of this, that, let me just be clear, is a lie, because it's driving the sex trade industry, and it's driving the exploitation of our kids. And I'm not here to condemn anybody. Oh my God, I have compassion on it. I really have such compassion on the guys, and what a struggle that is with the way God wired you. Okay. However, people are getting hurt. People are getting hurt. And it affects our relationship and the trust that people have. Because let me say this, as a woman, I'll just talk about me. How's that? I'll just talk about me. As a woman, if someone has a real problem with the porn issue, it bleeds. Number one, I can kind of smell it out, to be honest with you, and I'm not trying to be like a creepo. But because how it carries an atmosphere, and it's really yucky. It's really yucky. Because as a woman, I want to feel safe with my brothers. I want to feel safe with my fathers, right? And so safety, the beautiful thing about the way God wired the guys is that their glorious strength is used to defend and protect, and to build and protect. Right? And when that is not happening, it's really turning creation back on its head. Because that's not what you were designed for, is when that's not happening. And so when a sister or a daughter or a mother is being exploited and the guys aren't speaking up and they're part of the problem, it's a real problem. It's a real problem. And I'm not just condemning the guys. I want you to hear me, because I'm so angry. I'm so angry at what the industry is doing to the guys and the bondage that is. I see it, and I see, right? I get it, Lori. It ripped your family apart. It ripped my family apart. I get it. I get it. And so what happens is that we have a common enemy. And let me just help you. It's not Netflix. I'm just, you give them feedback. And if you feel like you want to cancel, cancel. Okay. We have a common enemy. And we have a lot of different opinions about Satan and that kind of thing. And so I don't want to go there, because it's not helpful. And we don't even have to go there. We have a common enemy because there's something that is attacking and eroding our souls. It's eroding our sexuality. It's eroding our relationships. It's eroding our innocence. I believe that adults can be innocent, can connect with their innocence, and that erodes it. It defiles your conscience. And if you do it long enough, it defiles your conscience so long that you don't have a conscience about it. And, and that's a problem. So, guilt is helpful in the sense of when it says like, wow, I violated my conscience. Let me do something about that, because that's not who I am. Right. I grew up in a, not just liberal, but a libertine. So pretty much if you want it, take it. I mean, there was nothing, it was pathological. Okay. So I get that. And there was no conscience. Okay. And it's problematic to say, like, what a that was like, okay, whatever. We'll just let that, we'll just keep on rolling. Okay. So if there's a guilt thing, well, look at it and let the Lord heal it so you can feel clean and good the way you are, and powerful and whole, because so much of this is about wholeness. And when the guys aren't doing what they're called to do, when the women aren't doing what they're called to do, when the fathers aren't doing what they're called to do, when the husbands aren't doing what they're called to do, when the wives aren't doing what they're called to do, you know who pays all of the above, but especially our kids. Oh my God. Can I make a plea for our kids? Can we protect our kids' innocence? Can we do that? See, because they're counting on us and our grandkids. Like, if we don't do it, we're just selling our kids out. And so that starts where we are personally, and our own personal integrity with this. And I'm not preaching this, so anybody just like be led, okay? But I do think we do need to speak out with that. I do think we need to speak out. And I do feel that as it comes to us, we need to not partner with the industry. There are greater minds than mine that are baffled by this problem. And there are people doing amazing work in the sex trade industry. They are. But I do think we need to speak out. And my particular problem with the Netflix thing is that this is streaming into you just came into my space. It's one thing for me to, have a pop-up on my website, whatever. I don't get those that much, thank God. Because we don't traffic with it. Okay. And so that wasn't meant to be a superiority thing, but you know what I mean? This is a value for us. Okay. And then, that's one thing. But when it comes into my space, that's a problem. And little kids are getting on this and they're saying, wow, that's cool. And I know we have it in social media. I know this. I'm not an idiot. I know we have it all the way around. But you know what? If I'm paying for something, I have a right to say something. You know what I mean? I may not be paying for the, whatever that's in my face, but if I'm paying for it, I have a right to say something. And so do you. And so I do feel like we need to not apologize for actually having a value on this and for protecting our kids. And I think the other thing is I think we need to do a heart search. If we're not outraged by things, we're outraged by little kids being so sexualized. I mean, I cannot tell you, it was horrible. I had to turn, I couldn't take it on this film. If we're not outraged by that, I think we really need to crap, I am really desensitized here. This is a problem. Okay. And so we need to look at our own hearts where we become so desensitized. And that's part of the plan. Like if there is an agenda to hypersexualize things, well, you know what? They desensitize. We're like the frog that's getting heated in water and we don't even know we're being boiled alive. Okay. And I'm saying stand up and refuse to participate. And you can do that. You have the power to do that. I feel like you can speak up. You don't have to be like a religious nutcase, okay? But by all means, speak up. These are your children. These are children. Sometimes, it's interesting. I treat a lot of people that have suffered sexual abuse. A lot of people. Okay. So, I mean, like if you do anything, you run into that, okay? It's a thing. And so one of the things that that happens is that you sort of disconnect from that child. And one of the things I recommend you do if you're finding you're kind of desensitized is, go look at little children that are innocent. Okay. Maybe they're playing on the playground or they're just doing their thing. That's what you were when your innocence was taken away. Okay. And those little 11-year-olds, well, that are on that Cuties film, well, you know what? Go find an 11-year-old that is not, it hasn't had, and see what that looks like. And then oh my God, look at the loss. And honestly, getting that back, really hard. And it's impossible if you don't think it's a problem, right? And so it's up to us. It is up to us. And what you can do. What you can do. If God, let me say this. Let me just say this. If there's an upgrade for you personally, that God is like, and I'm not talking about like you're bad and you got to do something to be holy. We already know we're holy. If you listen to my stuff and, I'll talk about original innocence, but I'm saying in your behavior, if there has been something that maybe you've just been compromising, and I'm not trying to, don't let that trigger you if that's a trigger, but I mean, you have been. And you've just let it kind of slide and you kind of justified it. And I'm holy, so I can do this. And you know what I mean? Well, maybe you can come up higher. Maybe you can actually speak up. That's not okay. Maybe, let me give you one. Guys, I'm going to say this particularly for the guys. If someone says something to you about a woman that is really objectifying, say something like, you know what? That is the person you're talking about. That's not okay. She's beautiful, but she's not a thing. And that was disrespectful. Just as you would say, or I would say, hopefully, if someone said something racist, that I would speak up and say, I'm sorry, that was a really ugly racist thing to say. And that's a human being right there. That was disrespectful and it's not okay. You can do that as well. And I would say that. And it means more when, a guy does it to a guy than it does to a woman, because then she gets accused of being a feminist. And, okay, I could go off on that, but anyway, right. She gets accused of, or being on her period or something. And that belittles you even more, right? Hello, we're all people and we need to be treated as people and we need to protect our kids and keep them innocent. Innocence is is important. And our child's innocence and their sexuality doesn't need to be in their face before they can cope with it, right? I'm not labeling sexuality as gross. I'm saying it's amazing, but it's precious. And so don't throw your pearls before swine, okay? You know, treat it as something holy and precious, and worthy of, like, you know, there's context for it. There's safety for it. Anyway, I hope this has been a blessing. Go read Keith's blog. It's really good in this discussion, and maybe we'll have some more. I don't know. I hope this has been helpful. And then do whatever's on your conscience to do about Netflix. I'm not part of the cancel culture. I'm not doing it. Love you. Okay, bye.